Virgin Galactic reporting its quarterly results, missing revenue estimates and reporting a narrower than expected loss. But the company's growth story is only just beginning. Our next guest says Virgin Galactic is positioning itself to be a key player in space tourism. For a deeper dive into those results, let's bring in Michael Leshak, Equity Research Associate Analyst at KeyBank Capital Markets. Michael, good to talk to you. We have seen a pullback in that stock today on the back of these results. What's the big headline for you coming out of the results?
Yeah, thanks for having me. That's a good question. So there certainly is a pullback. It's typically it's typical to see some volatility surrounding earnings results, but for us, we look at the long-term story, and we think that Virgin Galactic's doing a great job at positioning itself well to be a leader within the space tourism industry. So today they've successfully done 6 commercial launches, space flights to space in the past 6 months. And when we look at scaling operations, it's going to take their Delta class spaceships, and those are in development and production right now. And we see them coming online in 2026. So for us, it's really the long-term story that remains in focus.
And you highlight specifically that the company's still on track to operate its first or final commercial service flight in the second quarter of this year. You talk about space tourism and where Virgin Galactic is positioned. How big is that market?
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions on how big that market could be. But right now, it's you can look at their backlog, and they have ample demand really for the foreseeable future. The market could be significantly bigger than what we have today. But again, there are a lot of unknowns around that. And I think it's just important to focus on the supply-demand imbalance here, because there's not a lot of people, if any, companies that are doing what Virgin Galactic can do. And there's quite a few people in their backlog and more that want to buy tickets, and ticket sales still have yet to reopen. So that's an important watch point for Virgin Galactic.
You've got a price target on the stock of $1.90 a share. That's kind of right where we are, $1.80, a little pushing a little higher than that, maybe. I mean, it sounds like this is kind of the range we're likely to stay at based on the case that you're making here. What do you think is the biggest risk to the company right now? Yeah,
so the biggest risks to the company today is not being able to execute on the Delta class spaceships over the long term. They're in the design development process right now with them, and they need to be able to hit their milestones, which is right now they're looking to do tests on Delta class in 2025, and then bring them into commercial service in 2026. Our view is that we think that they have the right team in place to be able to accomplish that. So we think it is possible, but that would be the risk for downside in the stock. In terms of where it's at today, we're sector weight on it. And we just think it's more of a timing game when we get more visibility around some of the milestones that they have with these Delta class spaceships.
Michael, another stock that we're watching in space, related to space, is Rocket Lab, also reporting their results. Losses widen there, although it is right now about the buildup of this launch for their Neutron rocket. How long until Rocket Lab can compete head-to-head with SpaceX on that?
Yeah, so I think to some extent they're doing it today with their smaller Electron rocket. But really, the important part of being able to compete with SpaceX is getting their medium lift launch vehicle, which is called Neutron, into production. And they're scheduling their first launch for that rocket at the end of this year. So that's a much larger rocket than what they have currently, and it will significantly expand their total addressable market. So they'll be able to reach 98% of all satellites and carry them into orbit. So that's the significant market expansion if they're able to capitalize on that and complete the Neutron production in time for the first launch at the end of this year. Now, it is rocket science, so could there be a delay? Certainly, but we don't think a delay would be that long in nature, given that a lot of this is based on the same design as the the Electron rocket, their legacy launch vehicle. So we think that the similarities between the two, with the carbon composite design and the same avionics that they're using, that's really going to help them to get this to the finish line on time.
Certainly shaping up to be a very busy second half of the year. Michael Leshock, Equity Research Associate Analyst at KeyBanc Capital Markets. Good to talk to you today.
Thank you.